This is an anime I've watched, and I personally gave it an 8. It's an anime about traveling to another world, but unfortunately we don't get to see the truck come running over someone. The story basically takes place in a world where everyone is born with magic stars, and Famisha came to this world without any stars, and as soon as her parents found out, they threw her out of the house. Her friends turned against her, throwing stones and forcing her to flee, until she met a slime that completely changed her life, and she named him Sora, a reference to Yasuga no Sora. Just kidding, it's a reference to your blue. But before all that, the story begins with a man carving a piece of wood. When he hears a baby crying, excited, he runs into the house, and the maid tells him that they've had a very healthy baby girl. His wife then asks her husband what the baby's name will be, and he excitedly tells her that her name will be Famisha. After a while, we see that Famisha is much bigger, and her father is working in their house. She brings him some food, and then they all sit down to eat. While they are eating, Famisha accidentally chokes on the bread, and her father quickly creates water with magic to help her. Her brother tells her to eat slowly, but she replies that she's growing up and needs to eat a lot. Later, when they return home, their mother welcomes them with a smile, and we realize here that Famisha has a very pleasant life. But all that is about to change. During normal chores, her brother teases her, saying that she should learn to use some basic magic, and her mother defends her, saying that she will learn at her own pace. Now they all sit down together for a happy family meal, and later, while playing with her toys, she happily says that her birthday is coming up, and her father tells her that she's going to get a special present, which in this case is her ability. Just as they're having a family chat, someone knocks on their door. The caller is Lady Luba from their village. She has the dividing ability and says she's come to wish Famisha well on her birthday. Her mother welcomes her home, and Dividend remembers her visit to Famisha when she was just 2 years old. At the time, the Divergent realized that Famisha had memories of her past life, and Luba asked her not to tell anyone, as this would only cause problems. Now, after taking a brief look at Famisha's future, the diviner says that she will have a good ability and says goodbye, saying that she has done her job, so she leaves. However, as she leaves, she looks back worriedly, and then the big day finally arrived. Eve has finally turned 5 years old, and now she has gone to church with her parent. There, the priest tells her that today she will receive her magical ability. He asks her to come and touch the holy water. After doing so, she moves away, and the priest pronounces some magic words to form a water bubble, through which he receives a divine message. He then tells her that the girl has the taming ability, the only ability that allows a human to interact with a monster. Famisha's parents are overjoyed, but when the priest checks the number of stars on her ability, he is shocked to see that she hasn't received any stars. The priest is outraged by this, and Famisha's father says that there must be some mistake. But the priest says that a divine message could never be wrong. At home, Famisha's father is very angry about this. He drinks and shouts, saying that everyone in his family has stars except her. His wife tries to calm him down, but he's so furious that he breaks Famisha's favorite toys, even breaking the one he made for her. He asks his wife if Famisha is really his daughter, and this makes her cry. And when Famisha tries to comfort her, her older brother grabs her hand, pulling her away. She calls out to her older sister, but she is disgusted and ignores her. Her brother kicks her out of the house and tells her to disappear, and that's exactly what she does. But the torment doesn't end there. When she was outside, everyone in the village discovered her low position and began to criticize her harshly. The children started throwing stones at her, making her bleed a lot and forcing her to run. When she stops, she sees the villagers surrounding her with hateful look. She flees the village and wonders what she has done to be so hated. She then comes to the conclusion that she can no longer go home and begins to cry. Alone, she walks through the forest for hours while it rains, and finally she finds a cave and enters it to keep dry. And because it's cold, she tries to light a fire using her fire magic, but she can't. And after many attempts, her vision blurs and she faints. When she wakes up, she sees an old woman sitting nearby. Fortunately, it's Luba, and she reveals to the little girl that her prediction showed that this would happen to her. So she gives the little girl some soup to drink, and Famisha happily takes it. Later, old Luba sits down with Famisha and hands her a magic bag and a book, saying that these items are hers from now on, and that they will be very useful from now on. Old Luba then begins to look after Ivy as if she were her own daughter, teaching her about the world, how to read, write, and survive. Over time, Famisha comes to trust her and regard her as her new family. However, one day when old Luba leaves for the village, she never returns, and this worries Famisha, who decides to go to the village to find out what happened. When she arrives, Famisha's heart breaks when she hears people saying that old Luba has died, and to make matters worse, she witnesses her father telling the village chief that his own daughter should be killed, because the fact that she doesn't have a star means that she has cursed everyone around her. They even say that old Luba died because of Famisha, and this cruel betrayal from her own family completely destroys Famisha's spirit. In her mind, she imagines her mother saying that it would have been better if she had never been born. Soon afterwards, the village chief gathers all the villagers together and encourages them to hunt down and kill the poor girl, saying that as long as Femisha is alive, they will all be cursed. Desperate, Femisha runs for her life, feeling completely betrayed by her own people. She runs non-stop until she reaches a safe place in the forest. To protect herself, she improvises alarms using pots and pans, ensuring that any approach is detected. She then takes out a magical bag that she has been hiding and puts all her cooking utensils inside. She also puts other important items in the bag, including some potion. Now, with everything ready, she prepares to face her new life full of challenges, telling herself that she is unwanted and rejected. The next day, while exploring the area, she finds a garbage dump and starts looking for useful items. During her search, she pulls out a bag and accidentally drops several weapons on the floor. Fortunately, none of them do. And as she looks inside the bag, her heart is filled with hope when she finds some clothes, a healing potion, and a map. As she continues to organize the objects in the bag, she hears voices approaching. Some men appear, and they order the slimes to clean up the garbage. And when she realizes that they are looking for her, Femisha runs away as fast as she can, and while she is hiding, her heart races when she hears that there is a reward for her capture, be it dead or alive. She realizes that she won't have any peace until she's well away from these people, so she runs away again and spends the night under a tree. The next morning, as she crosses a swampy area, a strong wind blows, making her almost lose her balance, until suddenly she feels something sticky on her leg. And as she looks down, she realizes that some slimes are sticking to her, and before she can react, more slimes appear and start attacking her. Femisha runs for her life, but the slimes continue to chase her. She runs as far as she can, but ends up slipping and rolling down the hill. In the middle of the fall, she grabs onto a tree branch, which unfortunately can't support her weight and breaks, sending her plummeting even further. She is injured on impact, but quickly picks up a healing potion and treats her wound. As she gets up, she sees a beautiful lake in front of her. The water is crystal clear and looks perfect for a swim. Without thinking twice, she takes off her clothes and dives into the icy water. The sensation for her turns out to be incredible. The cold water relaxes her body and mind, and after her bath, she sits by the lake and makes an important decision. The decision that she wants to live her life to the full. Now determined to survive, she decides to change her appearance. She takes a razor and cuts her hair short. She also decides to take on a masculine look. After all, traveling alone as a defensive girl can be very dangerous. Inside her bag, she finds some men's clothes and quickly puts them on. And now, with her new identity form, she decides to change her name to Eve, a name inspired by the plant that grows and adapts even under the worst condition. The next day, during her journey, Eve hears a noise coming from a green field. Curious, she approaches, and looking between the plants, she finds a very cute little slime hidden away. Interested, she opens her book to learn more about the creature, and the book informs her that this is an unnamed slime, and that it is the weakest slime in existence. She then looks at the little slime and tells it that it is the weakest of its kind, just like her. And while she's thinking of a name for the slime, a strong wind blows, and the little slime ends up rolling across the floor. After some thought, Eve decides to call the slime Sora, and seeing how fragile it is, and that it can't even move on its own, she takes a look in the book and discovers that Sora is so weak that a simple touch can make it disappear. Worried, she wonders if picking him up could make him disappear. Then, very carefully, she turns Sora over and goes back to reading. The book then says that this type of slime has a shelf life of less than a day, and the book doesn't have much information about it either. Suddenly, a huge gust of wind blows Sora even further away. Eve, frightened, rushes to save him, preventing him from falling into the river just in time. She thinks about how she can protect this cute little creature, saying that even though his lifespan is only one day, she wants to stay by Sora's side until then. When night comes, she decides to stay awake to make sure he stays alive. She talks to Sora, telling him her whole story, and even saying that she has memories of her past life. She talks all night, and in the morning, when she wakes up, she realizes that she has fallen asleep. She looks for Sora and is upset to find that he's gone. Her face fills with tears, and she feels alone once again. But even so, she decides that she must keep walking and looks for her map to move on. But when she opens it, Sora pops out of the map. She feels happy and relieved that Sora survived, and that is more than proof that that book was wrong. She then looks back at the book and decides to learn how to put Sora to sleep. The book says that she needs to inject her mana into the creature and then name it. Then she approaches and touches the slime's head. It starts to glow, showing that she's doing it right, and the name has fortunately already been decided. And as soon as she calls it Sora, a blue crystal appears on its head, proving that she has tamed it. After being tamed, Sora jumps towards her, and she holds him, saying that he is her first friend. Early the next day, she sets a trap and manages to catch a mountain mouse. She carefully prepares the mouse, wraps it in a banana leaf and puts it in her bag, and then invites Sora to have a big feast with her tonight. She checks the map for the way to the royal capital, but it's not marking her there, so she decides to go to a nearby village first, in the hope of finding a better map there. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows Sora away, but Eve catches him just in time. Just then, she hears a strange noise. She quickly puts Sora in her bag and starts running. She climbs a tree branch and sees a horde of deadly ants approaching. When they pass, Eve feels relieved and takes Sora out. She is surprised to discover that Sora is a little bigger and heavier. Then she realizes that during her escape, she cut her face on a branch. She then puts Sora down and looks for a blue potion to treat his wound. And as the potions have expired, just one isn't enough. So she uses them all and looks for more, but can't find any. She tells Sora that she must have lost some along the way while running, so she continues her journey, and near the nearest town, she sees a poster of a wanted rat with a big bounty on its head. She tears down the poster, but then she sees more posters scattered around and proceeds to tear them all down along the way. When she arrives in the village, Eve notices that everyone is using magic, even for the simplest task. She keeps walking and sees a butcher's shop. The idea of selling a mountain rat crosses her mind, but the fear of being identified makes her want to leave. However, the owner notices her and stops her. He asks her what's wrong, why she's watching so much, and she says that she's there to sell her meat. And when he inspects her meat, he says that her meat is very fresh, revealing that he has an ability to feel the pain of 2 stars. She gives him all the meat she has caught, and he promises to give her 100 coins for every mountain mouse she brings in. After getting some money, Eve goes to the bakery, as she is feeling very hungry. A lady quickly comes out and asks what she wants to buy. Eve starts to choose the bread, and the lady tells her that each loaf is worth 20 coins. Eve then hands him the money and compliments the lady's bread, saying that it looks very delicious. The lady calls him a funny boy, and after receiving her bread, Eve quickly leaves. She sits in a tree with Sora, shares her bread with him, and starts to eat. But when she looks at Sora, she realizes that he doesn't want to eat this bread. The next day, they return to the forest to hunt mountain rat. At that moment, Eve spots a garbage dump, and there she finds more healing potions, and obviously most of them are expired, so she starts selecting the ones she can use. Sora stands there watching, and when Eve puts the blue potions aside, Sora quickly absorbs them. Then Eve gives him some garbage to dispose of, but Sora refuses. Then she gives him a blue potion, which Sora quickly absorbs. When she gives him a red potion, Sora refuses it, and Eve begins to discover Sora's eating pattern. Later, Eve goes to the butcher to sell her mountain mice. Then she buys other types of bread and has fun in the water. Later, she gives Sora a blue potion while she eats her bread, and the next day, while walking through the village, Eve spots some adventurers and realizes that they are the ones looking for her. She gets a bit scared, but they don't recognize her and ask what she has in her magic bag. She runs away quickly, and the adventurers laugh, calling her a scared little boy. While she runs, the butcher stops her and asks if she has caught any field mice. She says she hasn't caught any yet, but then she notices the wanted poster again, and it scares her to the point where she runs away quickly, promising to return later. She then arrives at the bakery, and the owner says she's made her favorite bread today, but Eve sees her wanted poster there too and runs off, ignoring even the free bread the bakery owner has offered her. Now we see Eve sitting on a tree branch, and she's crying a lot. She grabs Sora and asks him if he thinks there's anywhere she can live in peace. She hugs Sora, and night finally falls. Then, the next day, as they walk through the forest, Eve comes to the conclusion that she must leave this village soon, because those wanted posters are everywhere. At that moment, she looks ahead and sees 2 paths. She checks the map, wondering which way to go, and suddenly, Sora starts shaking, and Eve realizes that Sora is hungry. She answers him by saying that she's hungry too, and promises to find something while they're walking. Further on, she sees a river and decides to fill her flask with water. Nearby, she sees a tree full of fruit and tells little Sora that he should try something new. She then starts to approach the tree, but Sora seems scared for some reason, and Eve soon realizes why. That tree in front of her is a monster, which, when it sees her, spits out the humans it was swallowing. Frightened, Eve grabs Sora and runs for her life. When they reach safety, Eve realizes that her hand is badly injured. She feels dizzy and realizes that she has no potions left, as Sora has devoured them all. Sora then jumps on her arm and starts feeding on her blood. She looks at Sora and comes to the conclusion that since he's a monster, he might as well eat humans, and oddly enough, for her to die feeding Sora isn't such a bad thing. Eve then falls unconscious, and when she wakes up, the sky is completely dark, and she realizes that Sora wasn't accompanying her, but healing her wound. But in the end, she comes to the conclusion that even if she had died, or or Sora had woken up, it wouldn't matter, because she's just an unwanted child. The next morning, Sora wakes up, jumping around her. Eve holds him and realizes that his wound has completely healed. She thanks Sora for saving her, and Sora makes some sounds this time, and Eve gets excited, saying that Sora has spoken for the first time. She happily holds him aloft, saying that all Sora can say is poop. She gets emotional again and tells the little slime that she has no one but him. The next day, as the morning begins, Sora starts pooping non-stop, acting just like an alarm clock. After she wakes up, she tells Sora that they're going to continue their journey, but before they do, they sit down to eat a meal. Eve eats some fruit, while Sora consumes some potion. Suddenly, Eve notices that Sora is jumping and moving, and this surprises her, as he now seems much more resilient. While Eve thinks and eats, Sora starts making noises, showing that he's still hungry. So the two of them go to the dump, and first Eve finds some clothes in a box. Then she finds some bottles of expired potions. She then gives a blue potion to Sora, who quickly eats it. Eve tries to give Sora other potions, but he refuses. However, when Eve mixes up the potions and offers them again, Sora eats them. After that, they continue their journey, with Sora looking stronger and more playful. Suddenly, Eve sees some berries and runs to get them. She tries to give some to Sora, but the slime grimaces, not wanting to eat them. Eve picks the berries, and later, they sit down together to eat, and just as Eve is about to eat, Sora has quickly finished his meal, so Eve gives him more to eat. Seeing that Sora is eating too much, Eve starts to worry. She tries to give Sora more potions, but he eats them all in seconds, so she decides to tell him a bedtime story, because if he's asleep, he'll stop wasting his energy and ask for more food. Now, sitting in a tree, she begins to tell a story she heard when she was younger. A story about a world war. At the time, the king gathered magicians to make predictions about how the war would end, and the future revealed the end of the world because of the war, so they used powerful magic to protect the world. However, nobody knows what that magic was until now. In the story, it only said that a child from another world would come and use it, and in the middle of the story, they both fall asleep. In the morning, Sora wakes Eve up again, acting as an alarm clock, but Eve quickly gets in over her head. When she checks her bag, she yells at Sora because he's eaten all the potion. Later, they go to catch the mountain rats again, but as they get closer, they realize that instead of the rats, there is a snake trap. Eve thinks, maybe I can sell it too, but she's afraid to go near it, so she takes a cloth out of her bag, picks up the snake, and ties it up with a rope. As she walks towards the next town, Eve smells something strange in the air. Sora seems scared too, so Eve follows the scent and discovers a dead horse lying on the ground. When she gets closer, she finds many dead men too. She gets so scared that she runs away, still holding the snake she captured. She keeps running until she reaches a distant place, and when she sees a nearby town, she quickly enters, thinking she needs to tell someone about it. She spots the guild and decides to go in. The people at the reception desk look at her and ask what's in her bag. Eve reveals that she has a snake. A man then tells her to take the snake to sell to an apothecary. She then mentions that she found dead bodies along the way. The receptionist then asks her to come closer and give more detail. While she is explaining, a man arrives and asks the exact location. Eve tells them everything, saying that it was very close to the city. He then instructs the other adventurers to go out and investigate, and before leaving, he tells Eve that if the information is true, she will receive a good reward. The receptionist hands her a document and asks her to come back later to collect her reward. Afterwards, Eve goes to an apothecary to sell the snake. A man examines it and says that this is a rare snake. He offers 3 differentiated coins for the carcass. Eve then does her mental math and realizes that these differentiated coins are worth the same as 30 captured rats. The man hands her the money and says that if she gets any more snakes of this kind, she should bring them there and he'll buy them all. She leaves with the money and happily tells Sora that they should buy some food. Later, Eve goes to the disposal area and is excited to see several magical bags. Meanwhile, Sora finds some blue potions and quickly consumes them. Eve begins to wonder how to carry so many magic bags. She tries to put one inside a blue bag, and it fits. But when she tries to do the same with a brown bag, she realizes that it doesn't work. She starts testing which bags can hold other bags, and after a while, she discovers that some can carry 2 or 3, while others can't carry any. She learns the whole concept of storing magical bags and feels happy to have discovered it. Then she and Sora head towards the city. On the way, Eve tries to go unnoticed by the people who know her, but a knight from the guild sees her and says that the information the little boy gave her was correct. He says that the monsters have killed several adventurers, so higher level adventurers have been sent to hunt them down. Before leaving, he instructs Eve to go and collect her reward for the information. Then, when she arrives at the guild, she hands over the document she had received earlier, and Eve starts pulling bags out of her purse, surprising the receptionist, until she finally finds the document and hands it over. And finally, she receives a silver tablet as a reward. Eve starts calculating, and she realizes realizes that one tablet is equivalent to 50 mountain rat. The receptionist also gives her 2 gold coins, and Eve is very happy to have gotten so much money. She takes all the money, and just as she's about to leave, the receptionist stops her, asking her to get her bag. As she walks down the street, people start laughing at her, and Eve realizes it's because of her bag. When the receptionist picks them up, Eve eats her meal and gives Sora a potion. She then looks at the map to continue her journey, and lies down, telling Sora that it's great fun traveling with him. The next day, Eve is upset to see that her trap has been broken. She realizes that at this rate, she won't be able to make any money, so she checks her purse to see how much money she has left. Sora jumps out of nowhere and Eve runs after him. Then, on finding Sora, she realizes that Sora has discovered a magical monster that is completely injured. Eve looks in her book and realizes that this monster is going to die. She then makes a face at the monster, saying that he must be scared. She says she was scared too when she was about to die. Sora feels bad for the monster, so he jumps up and covers it, completely healing all its wounds over time. Eve is impressed by this, and she waits patiently until Sora has finished healing this monster. When his work is done, Sora jumps back into Eve's hand. However, at that moment, a huge monster rises up and approaches her. She is startled to think that the monster might attack, but instead the creature shows affection for her, as if thanking her for healing it. Eve then makes faces at the monster, saying that it's very cute, while Sora just says poop as usual. Afterwards, as they walk through the forest, Eve reflects to herself on the fact that she has yet another friend. She smiles and says that she should at least give her new friend a name, and after some thought, she decides to call her new friend Cell, which means cell in another language. She then introduces herself, saying that her name is Ivy, and says that her little slime is called Sora. And as they walk, Ivy senses the presence of people nearby, and tells Sora to get into the bag, while Cell just hides in the bushes. Later, Ivy arrives at the gate of the new town. She looks at the town guard, who looks scary. Just then, a man appears and passes by, asking him not to play tricks on anyone, and Sora for some reason reacts by getting scared of the man. As the man is about to enter, the guard stops him and asks what he has come to do in this town. The man replies that a friend of his lives there. The guard becomes suspicious and asks what this friend's name is, but the strange visitor doesn't know what name to say, so the guard pushes him against the wall and cuts open his bag. The contents of the bag quickly fall out, and in a small magic bag that the guard tears open, he finds alcohol inside. He then grabs the man and tells him that he is trying to sell alcohol illegally in this city. Just then, another guard arrives, asking him not to treat this criminal so violently, and then he takes him to the prison cell. Ivy, after observing the whole incident, asks Sora if he knew that this was a bad man, and Sora replies by talking poo. Now it's Ivy's turn to go through the gate, but she's too scared of the guard, but if she runs now, she'll look much more suspicious, so she walks hesitantly, and the guard stops her. When she turns around, the guard inspects her with his frightening eye, but just then, an insect lands on her shoulder. The guard asks her what's wrong, and she says there's an insect on her shoulder. The guard then chases the insect away and thanks her. Then, just as Ivy is about to move on, the guard asks her which village she belongs to. She replies truthfully, saying that she is from Ladome village. The guard then replies, saying that he has heard that things are difficult in that village. He then adds that now he's come to a good place. Things will get better. Having said that, he lets what he believes to be a small boy in, and as he enters, she is surprised by the size of the town. She runs into the butcher's shop and asks if the lady would buy the mountain rats she has caught. The lady says yes, but also asks Ivy to beware of the monsters in the forest. After selling what she has, Ivy asks the lady for some ready-made meat. After that, she walks away, wondering where she should stay. She then spots a large open space where the adventurers gather, but on seeing the scary guard, she hesitates, but still walks towards him. The guard asks her a few questions and tells her she can make herself at home in that area. He gives her a wooden pass to enter, and as she enters, she quickly opens a cloth and lies down. She looks around and notices that everyone else has a tent. She then tells Sora that if they had a stall too, she could let him out. So she decides to walk towards the market to buy a stall, and as she's deciding which one to buy, the guard from before comes up and scares her. She almost starts crying, and then the other guard scolds his friend, telling him not to scare children like that. And the guard who was manning the gate then introduces himself, saying that his name is Ogudo. She introduces herself as Ivy, so Ogudo asks her to let him help her buy her stall. Ivy is a little hesitant, but the guard called Verivera informs her that Ogudo is not a bad guy. Together, they enter an old man's store, and Ogudo tells the old man to give the boy something good and cheap. While the old man is looking for a tent, Ivy asks how much tents cost in general. She wonders if 1 silver tablet would be enough, so she tells him that her budget is 5 ladles. The old man, on discovering that she intends to spend 5 shells, quickly asks her where she got the money. She then explains that she received a reward for informing the victims of a monster attack. The old man then hands her a tent, saying that this is the best he can sell her for 5 kanchan. She accepts and is satisfied with the deal, and after she pays for the tent, the old man suggests that she put some kind of mark on it. So she writes Sora's name in Japanese on it, and as a gift, the old man gives her a free magic bag. Then, outside, she thanks the guards for their help, and they say see you later. Ivy, hoping to see her around town again. Now, without the guards at her side, she sets up her tent. She starts to set it up, and when everything is finally ready, she is very happy to have a place to call her own. She enters, closes the curtain, and takes Sora out of her bag. Sora gets excited when he sees the tent and starts jumping. Ivy tells him that this is their home, and Sora jumps on her lap, and Ivy says that now they should celebrate. She then promises to go to the dump to collect more potions. However, while she is still in the tent, some adventurers show up. One of them says that the tent she is using is his and calls her a thief. The man starts accusing her of stealing the stall, but she says she didn't steal it. He grabs her, and a woman begins to humiliate her. They open her bag and are surprised to see a creature they've never seen before. Ivy tries to run away, but one of the men stops her. He holds her up, and the poor thing is about to cry. But then a guard appears and tells them to leave the boy alone or they'll be punished. The man doesn't listen to him, so the guard quickly releases Ivy from his hands, saying that this tent belongs to her. The man then says that it's not possible that this little boy could have bought such a good tent, and the guard says that Ogudo helped him buy the tent. And now, very angrily, he asks if his tent has really been stolen or if he's lying. At this point, the man hesitates and says that perhaps they have made a mistake, and as they try to run away, the guard calls the other guards to deal with them. The guards quickly take each of them down, and the ones who were caught are taken to prison. The other 2 manage to escape because they were too fast. The guard then asks Ivy if she's alright, and she thanks him. He gives her a healing potion, and she's happy because it's the first brand new potion she's ever had. The guard says that this is an apology for what happened. She thanks him for his help, and he leaves. Later in the evening, Ivy tells Sora to drink as much of the potion as he can and get his fill, but when he's about to eat, he sees that Sora isn't eating because he wants the brand new potion from her. Ivy tells him that he'll need it to heal, and that he can't eat it. The next morning, Ivy wakes up and tells Sora that they're going hunting, and before she leaves, she makes sure to tell the guard, and as she walks, she meets many guards along the way who know her. They offer help and give her gifts, and she wonders how they know her. Later, in the forest, she sees that her trap has been destroyed again. She tells Sora that at this rate, she'll never catch anything, but just then, to her delight, Seal appears from behind, and he's brought her some rabbit. She asks if he's giving them to her, and Seal says yes. Then she hugs him and says she'd better start preparing them, as they're still very fresh. While she's doing this, Seal plays with Sora, and when she's finished, Sora and Seal are already asleep. She wakes Sora up, saying that they'll be back. Sora rolls towards her, and Seal cuddles her, then goes back into hiding. Eve and Sora return to town, and Sora's clumsiness causes him to injure himself with a stick. Back in town, she goes straight to the butcher. The lady compliments the meat she always brings, saying it's very fresh, and even jokes that the meat is so good it looks like she hunted it without a trap, and Eve just smiles. The lady gives her the money, and says that with this quality, she will always be welcome. And as Eve walks away, she meets guards again along the way who stop her to talk. She hides and wonders how they know her. It's at this point that Verevera appears and asks what's wrong. She tells him that it was Ogto who asked all the guards to keep an eye on her, but Verevera promises that he will have a serious talk with Ogto. After that, he says goodbye, and while Eve is walking, she spots a fruit store and runs towards it. There, she finds some fruit from her village, which is very expensive. She asks why the price is so high, and the shopkeeper says that this year's harvest was very bad. He asks if the little boy is from Latum village, and she says yes, saying that she ran away from the village. He then tells her that the fortune teller used to predict the harvest time for this fruit, which is the village's main source of income. But the old woman fell ill, and the village chief didn't give her the medicine. She ended up dying, and now the village chief is blaming a child called Femisha for it. He's telling everyone that that little child is cursed, and upon hearing this, Eve gets upset. The shopkeeper then goes on to say that Latum village is now in a financial crisis. He asks her if she has left the village because of this, and she says yes. After she says this, the shopkeeper decides to give her a piece of fruit to motivate her. Later, back in her tent, she thinks about her family and wonders if they are all right. Sora also feels bad, and Eve says that she has been cast aside by her own people, and now she is in a completely unknown place. However, the people she has never seen in her life are all kind to her. She takes the fruit and says that in a way she feels at home here, and Sora tries to say something while jumping, but Eve replies that she doesn't understand what he's saying. She eats the fruit and remembers the words the psychic said to her. Basically, she has been instructed by that old woman to travel to the capital and get to know the surrounding towns, so that she can find good people she can trust. So, the next day when she wakes up, before going out hunting, she greets everyone with joy. When she gets to the forest, she sets a trap and invites Sora to go to the garbage dump to get a potion for him. On the way, she senses the presence of people and makes Sora jump into her bag. Just then, those evil adventurers appear and say they are ready to take revenge, but first of all, they ask her to give them her rare slime. Eve replies that she can't because Sora is her friend. Then the man orders her to hand it over or she'll be beaten up. She gets scared and starts running, and the man runs after her. She leads him towards her trap, and he gets stuck in it. Seeing him in this situation, the man's partner calls him useless. The man lets go furiously and vows not to let this boy get away. As Eve is running, the woman appears and tells her that she can't escape. Then the man grabs her and orders her again to hand over her slime. It's at this moment that they are both startled by a huge monster. They quickly let go of Eve and walk away, and the huge monster was Seal himself. He approaches them and roars at the woman, causing her to faint instantly. Now the man starts to run for his life, but Seal runs and jumps to defend him. After capturing him, he throws the collapsed man on top of the woman, and Eve looks at them and asks Sora if he's alright, and Sora, as usual, just says poop. Just then, she hears someone approaching and asks Seal to hide, and the people approaching are Ogudo and Verivera. They ask her if she's alright. She says yes. They tell her all about the people who attacked her. Later, we see her sitting with Ogudo, and he tells her that the adventurers who tried to harm her are now in prison, and she thanks him. He tells her that that group of adventurers were actually thieves, so she's going to receive a good sum for helping to capture them, and Eve is obviously thrilled to receive so much money. When he hands her the reward, he mentions that carrying such a large sum wouldn't be safe, and suggests that she create an account with the Merchant Guild. We then see Eve in the guild, next to Ogudo. The receptionist instructs her on the steps to open an account, and so we see Eve putting her finger on the needle, and when a drop of blood comes out, her account is created. Ogudo checks her details and asks Eve if she's going to be 9 soon, and she says yes. After that, she goes into a room and puts the coins on a tray. Then a man appears. She hands him the coins, and he congratulates her on opening her own account, and gives her an item that she should use whenever she needs to redeem some money from her account. And as she leaves, she looks at the item, and Ogudo says that now they're leaving. But just then, Velivera appears and yells at him for leaving his post unannounced. Then, as they walk, Ogudo says he'll take care of this boy, and Eve wonders why they're being so kind to her, and Velivera asks if there's something wrong with that, and Eve says no, and that she's just hungry. Then Ogudo takes her hand and walks towards a store. He calls out to a woman, and she asks him if this is his lost daughter, and he replies that maybe it is. They sit down together, and he makes a huge request for him and Eve to eat. He then looks at Eve, so he wants to see her with a full belly. Eve replies that she can't eat that much, and Velivera scolds his friend, saying that he should at least realize the obvious. However, Ogudo insists that the little boy eat because a man must eat enough to grow strong. Then, when everything is served and Eve finally eats, she realizes how delicious this food is. Then the woman says that her cooking skills are 4-star, at which point Velivera asks what kind of skills Eve has. In response, she says that she has the skill of a tamer, and when they ask about her star rating, she hesitates and looks very sad, and realizing her discomfort, Ogudo gives her a pat, saying that people with many stars are not always useful, and Velivera adds, saying that there are people with only 1 star who do a commendable job, so no matter how many stars a person has, they can very well live a dignified life. They assume that the little boy only has 1 star, and after that, they say goodbye to Eve, and she thinks to herself about the fact that she doesn't have any stars. The next morning, Eve tells them that she will continue her journey towards the royal capital, and Ogudo tells her that just mentioning her name there will help her. She bids them farewell, and Ogudo asks her to come back one day, saying he'll be waiting for her visit. When she finally leaves the city, Velivera tells Ogudo that he has investigated Eve and easily discovered that she is a girl, and that she is hiding her identity for some reason. Ogudo asks why, and Velivera says that maybe one day that little girl will tell them everything, but warns him that her secret is something she hasn't even trusted them with. In the next scene, we see Sora running through the forest while Eve asks him to walk a little slower so that she can follow him. When they finally stop, Eve drinks some water. She then looks at Sora and says that he is full of energy. It's at this moment that she realizes that Sora has changed after eating Seal's wound. But out of nowhere, her attention is drawn to something coming from the forest. The noise gets closer, and she gets totally freaked out, but Sora smiles and shrugs it off. Eve looks at him and realizes that it's Seal who has appeared. She jumps up to hug him, and Sora is happy to see him too. Later in the evening, by the campfire, Eve eats the meat and shouts that it's delicious. She then thanks Seal for managing to catch a lot of rabbit. She then looks at Sora and says that he eats a lot too, and Sora eats all her potion. The next morning, when she goes to check the traps she has set, they are all empty. She gets very upset and comments that she's being chased by a wave of bad luck. At least she still has some leftover meat, so she can use it for breakfast. Just then, she sees something strange approaching her. She picks up Sora and starts running away, and as she runs, she wonders what kind of presence this is, because the presence is making her very disgusted, and the presence continues to chase her. She then reaches the edge of a cliff, where she sees that there is no way out. She looks back and realizes that the thing looks like a human, not a monster, but she is still very scared. She then looks down and sees Seal, who gives a very powerful roar, and thanks to Seal's roar, the thing disappears, and she wonders what it was. After that, she goes on her way riding Seal, and she comments on how comfortable it is with Sora, and thanks Seal for his help. She then starts thinking again about that unpleasant presence, and suddenly, Seal starts getting aggressive. Eve asks what's wrong, and then she sees an ogre coming towards them. Seal grabs them with his tail and pulls them back, until the ogre gets closer, and Seal is ready to attack him. Eve tells Sora to jump into the bag, and Seal lunges at the attacking ogre. He bites him, and they both fall into the water. Eve gets very worried about Seal, and when she looks up, she notices more ogres approaching. She starts running as they chase her. She keeps running and reaches a place where she sees lots of scarecrows hanging, and the area looks very scary. But then she hears an ogre approaching, and she runs for her life. She tries to run as fast as she can, and accidentally steps into a trap. A log comes down, and the trap lifts her up, hanging her from a tree. She doesn't understand what's happening, and when an ogre below jumps out to attack her, a light appears, and a huge fireball destroys the ogre. A man then appears using his flames and burning another ogre. He introduces himself as Latrua and says that this is his firestorm attack. He eventually realizes that he has a child caught in his trap, and she is surrounded by his flame. He runs towards the child and wonders why there is a child in this trap. Just then, an archer appears and fires an arrow to break the trap. And when Ivy falls, Latrua runs to catch her. He's safe and says he managed to catch her just in time. But before they could relax, an ogre appeared to attack them. Latrua takes Ivy away just in time and is saved by giant slimes. It was a beautiful woman who saved them, and Latrua thanks Mira for her help. She calls her slimes back and tells them that the others are fighting the ogres. They rush to help in the battle, defeating the ogres with their swords, and when it's all over, they ask Latrua if he's alright, and he replies, "Yes, we're fine." But then an ogre appears from behind to attack. However, the archer's arrows pierce his body, and he falls, totally defeated. The archer's name is Sifar, who says that all the ogres have finally been eliminated. Ivy watches them curiously, after which they explain to her that they are the suppression squad sent to eliminate these monsters. It's at this point that she realizes that the trap was set to trap an ogre, and one of them asks her if she's hurt, but she replies that she's fine. Then the leader of the group, who has a very complicated name, so I'll just call him Say, introduces himself, and the others also say their name. Hearing this, Ivy also shares her name, and thanks them for saving her. They continue their journey, and Safar asks her what she's doing in the middle of such a dangerous area, and she replies that she's on her way to the city of Odalia. So Say says she can travel with them. Excited, she asks if she really can, and everyone confirms it. When they get close to the camp, the leader shows her where they are staying. Ivy then says that the place is amazing, but at that moment she sees Seal and is happy that he's safe, but she's also worried that if anyone finds him, he'll be hunted down. She starts signaling for him to hide, and Seal, being smarter than any gameplay friend, quickly understands what she means. Latrua then calls her, and Ivy runs to him, saying she's going. Now they arrive at the camp, and Ivy is surprised to see so many adventurers there. The leader introduces her to their tent, called the Tent of the Burning Sword, and Mira says goodbye, saying she'll see them later. Then the leader reveals that they are now going to a meeting about the monster hunt, and Ivy just says goodbye to them while staying by Latrua's side. Afterwards, Latrua says that he's staying there because he has the task of cooking, and he immediately regrets saying that he doesn't know how to cook well. Ivy then asks him how he cook. Then he says that he has has a 3-star flame attack ability, so he seasons everything with salt and pepper and then exacerbates it with his power. He asks what he believes to be a small boy if he can help him, and Ivy says they can cook together. She starts with the rabbit meat, rubbing it with a little salt to season it. She cuts up some vegetables and fries the meat before cooking it with the vegetables in the pot. While she's cooking, Ivy explains everything she's doing, and Latrua just compliments her, saying that everything looks amazing. When dinner is ready, Ivy just waits for everyone to eat, and Zay gives the order saying that everyone can eat. Then, when everyone takes their first bite, their expressions make Ivy worry. But then they tell her that everything is great, and everyone compliments her as they eat. Just then, Mira appears and says she smells something wonderful, and Latrua says she's arrived at the perfect time, and invites her to eat with them. She sits down next to them and takes her first bite, realizing that she's eaten something very tasty, and Ivy comments that it's great that everyone likes her food. Zafar then asks Latrua if he made this little boy cook by himself, and Latrua tries to evade the question. Ivy then explains that they did it together, and Latrua agrees and adds that he adjusted the heat well. Then, to get away from the subject, he shoots a rock into the sky, and it explodes into firework. Just then, an idea pops into Ivy's mind. Mira realizes she said something and asks what's wrong. Then Ivy replies that if they had more varieties of metal, they could see a better show in the sky. Mira then takes out some metal, and Ivy is very excited about the idea. She says that with this, they can make more beautiful flames. Ivy then ties these pieces of metal into a cloth and gives them to Latrua. He then throws it into the sky and explodes it, so that everyone witnesses a display of colorful firework. Latrua keeps throwing the metal, and the fireworks become incredible. Everyone watches in awe, including Seal, who is watching the spectacle from afar, sitting on top of a rock. After that, Latrua brings the dishes to wash, and Ivy says she can wash them. But Say arrives and asks her to relax, saying that they can take care of it. Ivy insists, saying she wants to be useful, so Say only allows it, on the condition that everyone helps, and she agrees. And after she agrees, Latrua jokes that he's very cute and hugs him. Fortunately, his fellow adventurers beat him up afterward. Later, before bed, Ivy gives Sora potions to eat, and Sora feeds on. She brushes her hair and tells Sora that these people are very good. Meanwhile, everyone is talking about Ivy. They notice that this very small child is traveling alone, and to make matters worse, her body seems very fragile. Say then comments, and realizes that Ivy is afraid of being left if she isn't useful, and Latrua just listens in silence. The next day, Ivy finds a box full of old potions, and when she's choosing some for Sora, she sees some slime. Mira appears to say hello, and orders her slimes to throw out the trash. Ivy then asks if she has any knowledge of slimes that disintegrate in just one day, and Mira replies that this is a rare type of slime, and if someone catches one alive, they can sell it for a good sum. Just then, Ivy senses a strange presence again, and Mira asks what's wrong. But before Ivy can answer, other people appear with boxes full of garbage and place them nearby. Latrua says they've finished cleaning up, so they should continue their journey. Ivy is excited about the trip to the city of Odolo, but before they leave, they enjoy their last day of travel with beers. Ivy grills some meat for the group and serves it to them. When everyone starts eating, she also brings a meat soup, and Say advises that this soup really heats up the body. And when Latrua drinks it, he ends up burning his tongue, even though he's a fire magic user. Ivy is suddenly worried about Seal, who is still hiding on the mountain. Just then, Mira appears and tells them to meet her brother. As they talk, Ivy is surprised to realize that the two brothers are very similar. Ivy introduces herself to them, and Latrua says that their group is called Vendevil Verd, a very horrible name. And Mira's twin brothers approach her, saying that she seems to be a very intelligent child, and Ivy smiles. Just then, some boys approach, and Thoth says they should leave. Quickly, the Vendevil Verd group leaves, and Ivy waves to them, while Mira says goodbye. Then Latrua says that Mira and her brothers don't get on well with the other group that's coming. After that, during the night, inside her tent, Ivy takes a potion and gives it to Sora, and as she watches him eat, she feels a strange presence. She asks Sora to jump into the bag and hugs him. She closes her eyes, so that the presence of nothingness disappears, and someone calls out to her. The person who appears to call her is Latrua himself, who asks her to help him prepare breakfast and then leave. When he leaves, she wonders if it was Latrua who caused this presence, and Sora says no. Ivy then starts speaking a list of names to Sora, and he reacts strangely when he hears Mira's name. The next day, they finally arrive in the new town, and the guard asks Ivy for some personal information. He then asks her if she has anything to verify her identity. She then takes out her account stone, and the stone glows, confirming her identity. She then fills in the form, and the guard gives her a permit to enter and leave. Inside, The city is full of people, and Ivy is surprised to see such a big city. Latrua tells her to find a place to sleep first, and so Ivy ends up in another field, where adventurous travelers are setting up their tents, and so night falls, and during dinner, the leader says that this town is dangerous, and Balorda comments that it is, because children are being kidnapped and sold. The leader is annoyed that he can't do anything, as they still haven't managed to find any information about the kidnappers. Balorda then says that Ivy is a child too, and that they must protect her, and Ivy tells them that she was almost attacked. She says that something chased her. They then quickly open some kind of special equipment, which covers them with a veil to prevent anyone from hearing them. Then she tells them that a repugnant presence haunted her, and that a monster made this presence disappear. She felt the same presence outside the tent that day, and they begin to discuss who could be responsible. Cypher asks Ivy who she thinks it might have been, and she replies that she suspects the sites. The leader asks her if she's sure about this, but she, afraid to reveal that it was her slime who told her this, decides to back down from her statement and asks everyone to forget what she said. Later, she tells Sora that she can't tell them about him, but then she remembers the counsel of the old woman about trusting allies when the time comes. Then, the next morning, she leaves the tent. The adventurers create the veil again, and Latrua says that just as she said, the targeting has a dark side because they chased her during the night and discovered that her brothers were secretly talking to a merchant. When the shopkeeper left, he investigated, but they said they were just talking and that it was no big deal. However, why did they use that veil to muffle the sound? Everyone then begins to make guesses about the secret things Mira and her brothers might be doing. Eve listens attentively, and the leader thanks her for alerting them to Mira's suspicious behavior. Latrua thanks Eve, and she is thrilled to discover that they really believed what she said. She gets emotional while thinking that she's nothing. However, they still trust her. Latrua asks if she's alright. She then says she has to tell him something. She runs into her tent, opens her bag, and asks Sora to come out. She tells them that Sora told her about Mira, and they are all surprised to learn that Sora can sense people more. One of them comments that this is amazing, and Eve holds Sora and says that he's her best friend. The man called Hickbert approaches Sora and starts to spoil him, saying that he's adorable, and everyone has only heard of transparent slimes in stories. Meanwhile, Sora isn't enjoying Hickbert's pampering, so he lets loose and attacks him. And now, as Sora sighs on Eve's lap, feeling relieved, Eve watches him, and Latrua has the incredible idea of checking if slime really can see through lies. Hickbert says it's Latrua, and Sora shivers as he realizes it's a lie. A man says that his friend secretly drank Seafar's alcohol. Hearing this, Seafar is furious, and Sora confirms that it's true, and now the man runs after Seafar to beat him up. And Hickbert comments that Sora is an amazing slime, and Eve just says that he's her best friend again, and Sora smiles too. While talking poop, later in the evening, they all have dinner together and discuss how they're going to find the people from the organization behind the kidnapping. Latrua comments that it hurts to think that Mira is also involved in this, and Eve is also sad. She then says that she suspects there are more traitors. She asks how Mira's group grew as adventurers, and they tell her that her group was promoted by a nobleman after completing a task, unlike other adventurers who did similar jobs but received nothing in return. Eve then deduces that this nobleman must be part of the kidnapping organization. They must have tested people to become their allies, and Mira's group passed. One of the adventurers comments that this is unbelievable. After all, a 7-year-old child has realized what they haven't. Eve indignantly replies that she isn't 7, revealing that she just turned 9 today. Eve indignantly replies that she is not 7 years old, revealing that today she has just turned 9. On hearing this, the leader smiles and wishes her a happy birthday. Soon, everyone starts clapping and wishing her well. Eve is healed and grateful, and inside she thinks that it's been a long time since anyone wished her a happy birthday. Afterwards, the old leader tells Eve that they need her help to identify the traitor. Then, the next morning, the group arrives in front of the Adventurers Guild, and as soon as they enter, a man sitting there introduces himself as Hoglif, and Balorda compliments him, saying that he is the guild master. Eve greets him, and she looks at Sora, who says that he can be trusted. Then the guild's captain, Burskibai, introduces himself, and once again, Sora detects no threat. Eve then smiles and says it's nice to meet you. Afterwards, the vice captain also introduces himself, and Sora also gives the man a pass of innocent. Balorda takes the magic orb and pretends to be checking it, and comments that it looks like everyone is clean. Eve then explains that this is a magical item that shows whether a person is good or bad. The guild master, Hoglif, says that he will need your help to identify the traitors involved with this organization, and Balorda responds by saying that they are here to do just that. He winks at Eve, who nods, being too excited to do it. The next day, everyone is in front of a building, and the man explains that this place used to be the organization's base. They approach the guards, and Captain Burskibai starts talking to them. Sora confirms that one of the guards, a man with red hair, can be trusted, but when the man called Malgajula speaks, Sora begins to tremble. tremble, and Eve immediately realizes that he is a threat and warns Bolorda. Soon after, everyone enters the building, and Captain Burskibai sighs and comments, saying that he never thought Malgajula would be a traitor. The shocked group say they trusted him, and Bolorda looks at Eve and says he's counting on her help. The whole day passes, and at night, the tests with the guards continue, and when they finally finish, Eve is exhausted and sits on the floor. Latrua smiles and says good job to her. Meanwhile, the captain and the others are worried, because a total of 38 of the 157 guards were traitors. Just then, two noblemen appear, and one of them says that he was passing by and decided to take a look. When the nobleman Faltoria introduces himself, Sora shivers, and Eve immediately alerts Bolorda. But when the second noble named Foranda introduces himself, Sora doesn't react, because he can be trusted. Foranda asks them to let him know if they find anything suspicious, and then both nobles leave. The captain, furious, punches the wall and vents, saying that even a nobleman can be a traitor, and they had been living with such traitors all along. Now he blames himself for the deaths of his men, and Bolorda puts his head on his shoulder and tells him not to blame himself, because he had no way of knowing. The leader thinks out loud, saying that if this place was the organization's base, why didn't they find any evidence when they broke in? Eve then replies that the traitorous guards may have destroyed or hidden the evidence, and Latrua agrees, saying that now they need to investigate this place further. The suspicious group looks at Eve and asks if she isn't a 6-year-old child. Eve, irritated, replies again, saying that she is 9 years old, and the man ends up being impressed by her capacity for deduction. After that, they head to the room where the bad guy is in charge. The captain then gives him another task, and when he leaves, they start to search the room. They examine all the documents and papers that are there. At that moment, Eve notices a clue and sees a book that has been touched several times, so she decides to investigate. When she touches the book, it glows, and suddenly the floor opens up. Eve falls and discovers a secret room. Inside, they find an absurd amount of money, which indicates that the organization is very large. They also find detailed records of the organization's business transaction, and the captain then tells them to leave everything as it is so as not to alert the traitor. In the next scene, everyone is discussing the traitors, and Sifar says that with Eve's help, they have managed to discover all the enemies. Latrua adds that now they can take the whole organization, and Eve resolutely says yes. Later, while she's washing the clothes, Eve pours in some water and notices that the tub fills itself, and Latrua explains that this is a magical item that summons water. Eve smiles and says that this will make washing clothes much easier, and as Eve takes her clothes out to wash, Latrua looks at her and asks if she really is a boy. Hearing this, Eve is about to cry, and Latrua quickly asks her not to. Eve, feeling guilty, apologizes for having deceived them, and Latrua acts sympathetic, saying he understands. After all, it's dangerous for girls to travel alone. He promises to keep her secret, at which point Mira, who has been missing for a while, appears. She approaches them and invites Eve to explore the city, inviting her to a sweet store that is very popular here. Eve hesitates, but Latrua stops her, saying that he wants to go too. Mira then says that she's only invited Eve, but Latrua retorts by saying that he's going too, and he even changes the place where they should go. Mira sighs and says it's fine. However, they go in fives. Just then, Mira's brothers show up. Eve is shocked and speechless. While Latrua is worried, they stare at each other for a long moment, and then Mira moves forward, and Latrua also moves towards her. They stop, face to face, and Eve wonders what will happen next, but they both move their hands forward and say rock, paper, and scissors. Latrua makes the rock sign, while Mira makes the scissors sign. Latrua wins and celebrates, saying that they're going to the place he loves, not the filthy place Mira wants to take them. Soon after, we see them entering the store called Flow Flow. The waiter serves Eve sweets, and the next moment everyone is amazed to see the two twins eating quickly and asking for more. Latrua jokes that they should take the time to enjoy the sweets more. He takes a small bite and says that this is true happiness. Mira then asks if Eve is enjoying it, and Eve just smiles and looks at Sora, who is totally creeped out by fear, obviously warning Eve that these people are very dangerous. Suddenly, Latrua says that if they pick on Eve, he won't have any mercy on them. Eve watches in silence, and in response, one of the twins says that they can't fight someone who has 3 stars of pure attack. The other replies that he only has a 2-star defense skill, and Mira interrupts them, saying that no one is going to fight, and that everyone should be more civilized. It's at this point that her brother starts mocking her, saying that she can only tame slimes to clean up garbage. Mira feels insecure insecure and gets upset. But Eve defends her, saying that she thinks Mira is amazing, because taking care of the garbage is an incredibly important job for keeping a clean environment. Mira smiles and thanks her, but her brother retorts, saying that money-making skills are better than taming. Mira looks stressed and lost in thought, while Eve wonders what's going on. After that, they leave, and as they walk, Eve comments to Latrua that Sora said none of them were good people. But Latrua asks if the sweets they ate were good, and Eve says they were delicious. Latrua then says that he chose that store because the people there know him, and that was a real safe place. Eve then understands, and says that's why he wanted to go to Flow Flow, and Latrua confirms it, saying he wanted to avoid the place they suggested. And now, while looking at Sora, Eve sighs as she says that it's sad that those people are all bad, and Latrua reflects, saying that when he was little, children could run around freely in the city, and when they got up to mischief, they obviously got beaten up. Next we see a little boy trying to walk around to catch a butterfly, but his mother appears and stops him. And then Latrua says that now the city has become unsafe because of the kidnappings, and the adults fear that their children will be taken away. Later in the evening, Latrua tells everyone that Mira's group did something very suspicious. They looked like they wanted to kidnap Eve, so Eve says that they came to invite her for a snack. Zephyr now asks if they really want to sell Eve, and the leader then asks why they would risk so much to try to kidnap Eve. Everyone agrees that people would be too suspicious, and then a click comes to Eve's mind. She says that Mira's group is just a decoy, so there won't be any problems for the organization if they are exposed as traitors. Eve basically believes that Mira and the others are just sacrificial pawns. Latrua then asks what they should do, and Eve says she has a plan, and tells everyone everything. The leader really likes her plan, and says that now is the perfect chance to catch all the traitors. The next day we see all the adventurers gathered outside the guild. The guild master addresses them, and says that he has called them here to ask a favor. He introduces Eve, and says that as everyone knows, kidnapping cases are on the rise in the city, so he wants everyone to protect Eve. However, this child needs to meet all of them, so he asks them all to introduce themselves one by one. Meanwhile, Mira signs for Eve, who signs back. Then the first man walks towards Eve, and Eve already notices that the serum is shaking. He greets Eve, who says nice to meet you, and Eve is shocked to see that the serum is shaking even harder. Then she says this to Bolorda, who replies what? Already. On the other side, Captain Berskisby seems to be deep in thought. Then his vice captain asks him what he's thinking, and he says he's just imagining things. He then reveals his thoughts, saying that this child, Ivy, is something special because thanks to her, they are managing to find the traitors. Just then, she hears someone calling her name, which turns out to be Cypher and his team. Cypher asks for a special unit to be assembled, as a lair of monsters has been discovered in a cave in the forest. The captain quickly understands and tells a group to select the members for the special unit. And now we see the store where everyone is sitting, and Ivy asks what Danzu is, and Latrua says it's dangerous, while Mira says it's the tastiest candy here, and that Ivy needs to try it. Mira then asks everyone for Danzu, and the shopkeeper promises to take him. And yes, Ivy's plan was to play bait to capture all the bandits, and the place Mira wanted so much to visit is one that makes Sora tremble too much. And when she sees Sora like that, she grabs Latrua, signaling that the place is dangerous, and even the waiter is a bad person. Now everyone is talking to each other, and Latrua says he needs Mira and her brothers' help to carry out a secret mission. The owner is listening in as he prepares the sweets, and Latrua continues, saying that a large guard unit is being sent to fight the ogres, leaving the city vulnerable to attack. The twins agree to help secure the town, while the owner of the sweet store mixes something dangerous in 2 bowls, and after doing so, he carefully serves the sweets to everyone. And looking at the sweets, Latrua signals Eve not to eat them. Now, while they're talking, the owner rushes off to inform the organization to attack the city, as the place will be basically defenseless. Meanwhile, Latrua asks those who are supposed to be his friends why they are helping the organization. Mira asks what he's talking about, but Latrua asks them to eat the poison sweet. If they eat these sweets, they will prove to them that they are not traitors. And when Latrua says again that he knows they are traitors, the 2 twins get up to fight him. Marmee picks up his daggers, and Tort picks up his sword to fight, and after kicking the table, Marmee steps forward to attack, but Latrua dodges. They start fighting, and Latrua punches him, causing him to crash into the wall. Now Tort launches an attack, and Latrua stops him, telling him to give up. Meanwhile, Eve is just scared, and the fight continues. Out of nowhere, Tort tries to attack Latrua from behind, but Eve warns him. Latrua then summons his flames, but Marmee uses his water magic to nullify the attack. Now the 2 prepare to attack again, and Latrua picks up his sword. However, when the brothers were about to attack together, Mira uses her slimes to stop them both. And while they are dealing with the slimes, Latrua has the chance to attack and pass out the two brothers. After he does this, Mira says she's sorry for the betrayal, but Eve thanks her for stopping the twin. Just then, a friend of Latrua's shows up asking what's going on, and Latrua asks for his help. Now, back at the palace, the guards are on duty, and suddenly the organization's people arrive to attack, and the guards engage in combat with them. Meanwhile, some of them go up to a traitorous guard, they signal to each other, and then he takes them inside and tells them to go to that room. Now the noble traitor also heads for this room, and as he enters, he tells everyone that they've done a great job, and he walks over to push the book, and so the secret room is revealed, and out of nowhere a sleep bomb activates. He is shocked by this, and at that moment, several sleep bombs begin to explode, the gas begins to spread everywhere, and the members of the organization can't breathe and end up unconscious. At the back of the room, another bomb explodes. They try to run, but end up fainting. On the other hand, the captain is dealing with a special unit to capture the ogres, and the vice captain says that the traitors are right behind them, and that they are ready to attack them, because if they defeat the strongest, only the weakest will be left. The captain then says that they are all fools, and then he hands a device to his vice captain, who asks worriedly if he can use it at will, and the captain says that he should do whatever he wants. Then, when the traitors are ready to unsheathe their swords, and some even prepare to fire arrows, the captain and his deputy quickly react by dropping a net on them all. The net has the power to nullify everyone's magic using shock power, and now that several traitors have been caught, the two are preparing to capture those who haven't yet been caught. Meanwhile, the guild leader, Roglith, is also starting to fight against the traitorous adventurers. His friends also join the fight and begin to defeat them. One man tries to use a knife, but receives a powerful kick. The cipher defeats an enemy with a staff, but a man attacks the bucket, and it knocks him down with ease. Guild leader Roglith shouts for them to capture all the traitors he points out, and the bollard shoots one of the enemies in the head. They are all happy, as finally they can no longer be fooled, and the group electrocutes them again to make sure they are all neutralized. After that, everyone gathers in a private place, and the captain says that they have captured all the traitors. The Ballorda can finally say that the city is safe, and the traitor nobleman is furious as he is taken to prison, but the Foranda nobleman says that no one else will save him now. However, now they have a problem to deal with. The townspeople are angry with the traitors, but this is easily resolved by the captain, who runs towards the crowd and says that all the traitors will be punished. The people want to kill them right now, but the captain says that if they die here, they will be free. He promises the entire population that he will make sure that everyone receives a severe punishment for what they have done. His aim is to make everyone become slaves and work in a place that is a living hell. Upon hearing this, Evie comments that the captain is an incredible man, because by doing this, he has prevented normal people from becoming criminals. And in the next scene, we see the captain and the A group talking to Evie. The captain hands her a list of traitors involved with the organization, and obviously for having helped capture so many traitors, Evie is going to receive a gigantic reward, because as well as having captured traitors, they have discovered several murderers and very dangerous criminals involved in all of this. Evie thinks about calculating the whole sum, but she gives up and just picks up the pen to sign the papers. The next morning, Evie checks her trap, and she's disappointed not to have caught a single rat. Just then, Seal appears and Evie is happy to see him. She hugs him, and he goes into the bushes. The next moment, mice and rabbits are caught in Evie's trap. She then smiles and thanks Seal for doing this for her. Later, in the meat store, the shopkeeper thanks Evie for always bringing in fresh meat. He thanks her for making his business do so well. He pays her all the money she deserves with happiness. In the next scene, we see lots of people enjoying themselves in a restaurant, with various dishes on the table. Evie is sitting with everyone at a huge dining table. The guild master then stands up and announces that everyone should celebrate the fall of the organization, and everyone applauds. While Evie is drinking, everyone starts piling food in front of her. Afterwards, the captain tells them that that nobleman who committed several crimes has confessed all his dark secrets to the organization, and that the organization has now been completely eradicated. Evie then asks about Mira and her brothers, and the guild master says that they are in prison for helping the organization. While in prison, Mira feels happy to finally be free of that horrible job, and the guild master adds, saying that now everyone can finally relax. Evie then says that she wants to show them all something. She grabs Sora and tells him that he's the one who helped us. The guild master smiles and thanks Sora for restoring peace to the whole town. The guild master then asks if Evie would consider living in this town. Everyone wants her to stay with them. Evie is thrilled, and everyone else also starts encouraging her to live there, saying they'll help her with a house or anything else she needs. She is amazed and wonders if she really can live there, and everyone waits for her answer. Evie then looks at Sora and remembers the words of the old lady, who told her that if she ever found someone she could trust, she should tell them the truth about herself. So, after taking a deep breath, she tells everyone that she has something to say. She holds Sora tightly and reveals that she has no star. Everyone was surprised by this revelation, And she went on to say that when she was 5 years old, she touched the holy water in the church, and that's how they discovered that she was a starless tamer. The priest was furious that God had abandoned her. After that, she was thrown out of the house. Her friends threw stones at her. She ran from the village wounded and alone, and at the time she was helped by the kind seer who adopted her. But on the other hand, the village chief told the villagers that children without stars bring bad luck. He told everyone to start hunting, so she kept running away, until she got here. There I saw the low head, holding Sora tightly, while everyone watched in silence. And Latrua finally speaks up, saying that he has seen that she has incredible strength. Another adventurer adds to her, saying that she is very strong, and they also say that they don't care that she doesn't have any stars, and that everyone will always support her. Tears start streaming down Eve's face, and the guild master promises that everyone will keep her secret. And after wiping away her tears, Eve smiles and declares that she can now continue her journey, while holding Sora tightly. Eve says that until now she had been running for her life, but then she met Captain Ogudo, and he helped her without asking any question. And just like that, they all helped her, the complete opposite of the people in her village or her family. Now she understands what the seer meant, so she wants to meet many more people like them, and perhaps by traveling she can learn more about this world. They say that now Eve will be traveling to find something new. She says yes, and meanwhile one of them pampers Sora, saying how much he'll miss her. In the end, in honor of Eve's departure, everyone decides to drink a lot. That night they all share some happy moments, and Eve can feel a good warm moment full of happiness. The next morning everyone gathers to say goodbye to Eve, and she says she's ready to go. Latrua asks if she's forgetting anything, but she's already carrying more than enough. Eve retorts by thanking her for the magic bags, saying that it's very easy to carry her luggage with them. Everyone wishes her luck on her journey, and the captain tells Eve that he has done some research on Sora. He says that Sora is a weak slime, and he can only be tamed by her because she has no star, otherwise her mana would be denser, and when she tried to inject her mana into him, Sora would have been completely destroyed. At that moment something speaks in her mind, so she opens her bag and comes to the conclusion that she only came to this world to meet Sora, and Sora also only exists in this world to meet her. She prepares to leave for good, and everyone tells her to feel free to come back at any time. Eve then smiles and says goodbye, and they watch her as she walks away, and Seal appears out of nowhere, leaving everyone shocked. It's at this point that one of them comments that she has no star, but she has tamed even the strongest monster. So she moves on, with Seal loving her, and Sora also appears to be very